Morning everybody, and I'll open the meeting at 9:02. And I'm just going to pass over to Councillor Hancock for a tribute for our past councillor. Thank you.
Today we pay tribute to Leonard Vernon Ward, who was a councillor on Maranoa Council and sadly passed away earlier this year. Len's family held a tribute for Len in Surat on Anzac Day. Today is the first council meeting since his tribute, so we will take a moment to honour Len and remember his service to the Surat community. Len was many things: a devoted husband, a loving father and grandfather, a brother, uncle, cousin and friend. But above all, he was a man who served. His service began with his commitment to his country as a proud member of the Australian Army and continued throughout his life in many forms. Len came from a family with a rich tradition of service, something he carried forward with pride and humility. He served his community not only in spirit but in action. Len and his wife Gay built the first motel in Surat, the Cobb & Co Motel, which added greatly to the business community. Len served as a Bursary councillor in Surat for a term and as a former president of the Surat RSL sub-branch. Through this role, he honoured the lives and stories of fellow servicemen and women, always ensuring the remembrance lived on in the heart of the town he loved. Len served in the quiet, steadfast way of a man who didn't need praise. He just did what needed doing, and he did it well. Today, as we honour Len by a minute's silence, we remember a man who lived a life defined by service to his country, to his community, and most deeply to his family. Today, we remember Len's legacy. And if I could just ask councillors to be upstanding for a minute's silence.
Thanks, Councillor.
Thank you, councillors. If I could have someone confirm the minutes of the ordinary meeting on the 24th of April 2025. Councillor Brompton.
I recommend that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 24th of April 2025 be confirmed.
Seconder. Councillor Vincent. All those in favour? 9-0. (8.1) Development of Maranoa Regional Council Employee Volunteer Policy. Councillor Davis.
Thank you. I'd like to move that a policy be drafted and a report be presented with costings for a Maranoa Regional Council Employee Volunteer Policy, incorporating 2 days of volunteering leave per year, non-accruing, for consideration as part of the 25-26 budget deliberations.
Seconder, Councillor O'Neill.
Can I just a question? Yes. So this is for, like, say, Roma Show employed, they take the whole day to go out there. That's class. Is that not doing an hour stint somewhere? It's like a full.
It's either or is my intention, but I guess we could work that in a briefing. Personally, if I was coaching under, 8s netball and their training was at 4 o'clock, the ability, if work allowed it and in discussion, to go out and undertake that, as well as, the 3-hour training course you have to do for first aid or CPR and all that. So, but those kind of details will be worked out in the next step.
Would you like to talk to it?
Yes,
Councillor?
please. Thank you. Today I'm asking councillors to support the first step that has the potential to make a lasting positive impact on our region, the development of a Maranoa Regional Council Employee Volunteer Policy. As we know, volunteers are the lifeblood of our communities, whether it's lending a hand at the local football club, supporting cultural events like the show, or responding in times of emergency, volunteers are essential to the strength and resilience of our region. But across Queensland and here in the Maranoa, volunteer numbers are declining. In Queensland, volunteer numbers have declined by 10% in the last 5 years, and we are seeing long-standing events cancelled due to the lack of volunteers. This is a challenge we cannot ignore. Council has the opportunity to lead by example, where we are one of the largest employers in the region, and by introducing a policy that supports our employees to give back through volunteering, we are sending a clear message: volunteering matters. This policy would offer 2 days of non-accruing volunteer leave per year for employees. It's a small but meaningful gesture, one that could make a big difference for local organisations struggling to find helping hands. Whether it's 2 full days or time allowed to attend meetings, training or community events, this leave would empower our staff to engage with causes they care about. Supporting the development of this policy is not about only giving back, it's about strengthening our connection with the community, enhancing staff satisfaction and retention, and building a stronger Maranoa. I urge my fellow councillors to support the development of this policy and its inclusion in the upcoming 25-26 budget deliberations. Let's stand behind our staff and our community and take the important step towards a more engaged and vibrant region.
Very well spoken. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Hancock.
After that well-spoken message, I'd just like to commend Councillor Davis for bringing this forward. I think that this is truly an opportunity for council to lead from the front and to support our community with our volunteers. And I think that we will have some other solutions that will come out of the volunteer inquiry that the government is doing. But I just want to commend Councillor Davis for bringing this forward. I think this is an exciting policy to have a look at and to talk about.
Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Flynn.
As you know, very much aware of the decline of volunteer numbers and the attempts to be able to increase those numbers with the inquiry. However, I'm not totally sure that this wouldn't apply a deal of pressure to other sources of the small business community. I know that there are numerous people employed in small business who do volunteer for various organisations and spend a lot of time in those volunteering hours, and a number of those people are also self-employed. I just wonder if it creates too much pressure in our community to say, well, council have supported this, which I have no problem with council supporting, but the pressure being applied to other sources of our community business area, would that be too great?
Councillor Vincent.
I'd like to support this policy, to get this policy brought back to us. Thank you to Councillor Davis for bringing us to this morning. I think for me, we're such a large employee in the region. I think this policy will value the employees that we've got and the work that they're probably already doing in the community and trying to fit it in around their work and family. So, yeah, I look forward to seeing what this brings back to us to have a look at.
Very good. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mayor. Obviously seconded, so I'm very much support this concept and look forward to further discussions when it comes via a workshop. To you, Councillor Davis, thank you for proposing it. This is an initiative that is born out of the corporate world. There's big businesses locally, there's big businesses nationally that have these types of policies embedded in their organisation, and it's of course value to the community because it supports efforts to volunteer, but it's also supportive of staff. And if we want to be an employer of choice, and I think that's what our aim is, then these types of policies and initiatives will add value to the proposition of working for council. We obviously are very supportive of community organisations, sporting organisations through grants and sponsorships as a whole entity, as a council. But to back it in by offering the opportunity for our staff to be able to contribute as part of their role, and we're talking 2 days a year. That will be eaten up very, very quickly. I think this is a step in the right direction, and I really look forward to teasing out what this new policy will look like and have it enacted as part of the 25 and 26 budget. So all credit to Councillor Davis. I'm very happy to second it.
Councillor Broken.
Yeah, I'll support going to the next stage. I have some questions, but there's a lot of positives for sure. I think it's a similar thing to what we do with the fire brigade. People are in fire brigade. There's that.
40 hours.
Yeah, so it's probably similar to that. As far as how many people engage, like there might be 400 staff that do it, there might not. But the only thing I've got a concern is policing it so people aren't taking the mickey, so there's going to be that communication with every volunteer base that they go and work with. But yeah, happy for it to go to the next stage of the briefing, yeah.
Councillor Brumpton.
It's probably nearly all been said, but certainly given the work that's being done around volunteers at the state level and the fact that we are hearing this as councillors all the time around the ageing volunteers and getting volunteers, I commend Councillor Davis for bringing this forward, and I think as a large employer in the region, it may help encourage others as well to do, and I do know that some of the corporate world already do it, and I think it does value our employees as well. And as such a big organisation, we can do something to help rather than just the monetary, the grants, the whatever. We would be, talking the talk, walking the walk, and we've got to get the finer details out in the policy around how people apply and how we make sure that they are doing the right thing. But I think it's a very big step in the right direction. Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking put our money where our mouth is.
Yeah.
Same deal. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Davis, would you like to sum up?
No, I think it's all been said. Thank you.
Right, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? 8-1. 11.1, Annual Review of Procurement Policy. Councillor Hancock.
I'd like to declare a conflict on the annual review, item number 11.1, annual review of procurement policy. Declaring councillor is Councillor Joanne Hancock. Person with interest is GL and JM Hancock, myself and my husband. Particulars of interest is GL and JM Hancock owns Surat Post and News and supplies goods and services to council on an ad hoc basis. It's a declarable conflict of interest. Although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias, and I have received legal advice that I don't have a conflict of interest. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Councillor Brompton.
I move that it is in the public interest that Councillor Hancock participates and votes on agenda item 11.1 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Seconded by Councillor Davis. All those in favour?
I can't vote because I've got a conflict too. Sorry, Kel.
That's all right. 7-0.
I forgot about that. We talked about this last time.
Do you have a conflict, Councillor?
Yeah, sorry, I did forget that we declared last time. I'll have a similar one, Kel, sorry. I won't get me smoke out today for missing 2 of these now. I've got a conflict on item 11.1, annual review of procurement policy, declaring council as myself. The person in interest is myself. Particulars of interest is I occasionally hire my bus to council for Volunteers Week, Seniors Week. What did you put declarable?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, and it'll be a declarable conflict of interest.
An example.
And I will wait till all them words come up and I'll say all them. Although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias, and I definitely haven't done that. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I'll respect the decision of the meeting and whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Councillor Surat.
I move that it is in the public interest that Councillor Hancock, Councillor Burkett, I'm getting it right. Thank you. 3 times lucky that Councillor Burkett participates and votes on the agenda item 11.1 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Are you sure?
Definitely sure.
Well, I might get 3 smokers.
Yeah,
on 3 different
100%.
people.
Seconded by councillor Vincent. All those in favour? Against? 6-1. Have you got a conflict?
Well, I didn't put in a conflict because I thought the interpretation that we got took away from that, but I guess in give the light that the other councillors are putting a conflict of interest proposal in, I will do that.
6-0 on that one then. And over to you, councillor Flynn.
The declaring conflict of interest on item 11.1, annual review of procurement policy. Councillor name is Peter Flynn. The related party is myself. The particulars of interest, my business, Maranoa Travel Centre, has some dealings, financial dealings with airfares of Maranoa Regional Council. I would have this as a declarable conflict of interest, and although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Councillor Brumpton.
I move that it is in the public interest that Councillor Flynn participates and votes on agenda item 11.1 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Seconded, councillor Seawright. All those in favour? 6-0. Anyone else got a conflict? No. Does anyone have any questions on this before I get a mover? Councillor Hancock.
Because until today, since the room has voted on the fact that I don't have a conflict, I haven't been involved in any of the briefing sessions, so I do have some questions. Might be good. It's a new look on it when someone hasn't been involved in the process. So if I can just go to page 45 of the policy, it's in our of the meeting. Just want to clarify, under the table, I don't have a problem with the table, but under the table where it says it's the star that relates to the table, it says where appropriate a local supplier to be utilised in the first instance where value for money exists for purchases from $0 to $14,999. I'm just concerned about that statement where we're saying appropriate for local suppliers to be used in the first instance where value for money only up to 15,000. After that, we shouldn't have to consider the locals. My interpretation is it should actually read where appropriate local suppliers to be utilised in the first instance where value for money exists, full stop, or for purchases, full stop. Because we have to do it within our policy, but couldn't that be for all of the criteria?
Through the chair, through the rest of the policy, there's other elements that talk about what we do with above $15,000. So I guess what that table was trying to do, its focus, I guess, is around those, just to identify the thresholds for when you get what number of quotes is the purpose of that table, is what its purpose for. And earlier on in the document, there talks about you're required to go out to everybody under 15,000 for locals, and everybody else, there's a local, once we go above that 15,000, we talk about a local, I'm trying to think of the right word.
Benefit, yeah.
Yeah, there's that assessment process that has a weighting that's applied to all of our local. So I guess what we've tried to do is make sure that at least for those below 15,000, yes, there is something that's happening to make sure that we're focused or looking at our local suppliers. And then above that, there's another mechanism for trying to make sure that we're considering local, giving some advantage or some weighting, if you like, some benefit to being the fact that they're local.
So that's fine, but would it hurt just to say where appropriate local suppliers to be utilised in the first instance where value for money exists for purchases? Or do we have to actually put that next there? It should just be... what I'm concerned about is when you read... If somebody read this, if a business read this, they might read that and go, oh, they only want to consider... They're only putting value on local under $15,000 jobs, whereas it's actually not the truth. We want to be a council that does focus on on local, with value for money. Like, I'm not saying it's going there first, but I'm just a bit concerned about how that might be portrayed.
Do you mind if I add something to that? So we undertook an extensive deep dive into our purchases, Councillor Hancock, and the majority of our purchases are under $15,000. So in putting that there for the local supplies to be utilised in the first instance, that is where we're raising the most purchase orders and engaging most. So that is why it's referred to there, that there will be the only ones required to get quotes from. Anything above that, I feel like council's position, we do need to look at value for money, and they are weighted criterias after that.
I'm just thinking, sorry, that just to clarify for the people reading it, as Councillor Hancock has said, you could add another sentence that clearly says, for above 15,000, local suppliers will be, as per the policy, there is a weighted something, just so that that fixes Councillor Hancock's query, and if someone's reading it, they see that still as a local, there is a different mechanism, and it just clarifies it.
I just would be more comfortable with that.
If I may, I understand what you're saying. Just when you're reading the table, note that it's the little asterisk is only referring to 1 and 2. And so that's all it's referring to. And that is what its intent is.
But that's my issue. That's my issue, is I think it could be perceived as it is only referring to 1 and 2. So I'm okay, I agree with Councillor Brumpton, if we can just add a line that says, or change our asterisk, but basically just add it in and just go above these figures will come under the local benefit fund or whatever.
Which is on page 43,
Yeah,
they would have read before that.
And it's not going to change the intent or anything else, it's just for clarity. I
Yeah.
don't think there should be a problem, should there?
I'm putting it out there, councillors. I read this without being involved in any discussion, and that was the interpretation I got.
Okay.
And so we'll just leave that one for debate, but
Would be a problem to put that in there.
just to point them back to that
Yeah, good.
that area.
But our intent is on purchases that are between 15,000 and 200,000, where appropriate, local supplies would be utilised in the first instance where value for money exists.
Yeah.
So it's at higher up.
So the point that you're making is right. Why wouldn't we just put a full stop after value for money exists, and then you'll have to change the stars to probably Roman numerals, and then that point 1, which is where appropriate, local supplies to be utilised in the first instance where value for money exists, applies to 15,000 to 199,000 as well.
Value for money wouldn't be the only criteria.
It's not the only criteria, but it is illustrating to people that
So we'll consider local.
Well, it's not necessary in the first instance. Because that virtually says if they provide just value for, that's why I would then read it that way. In the first instance, if they provide value for money over 15,000, they would get it regardless of whether they didn't meet any of the other
Safety or risk.
criteria.
Doesn't the following table defines requirements standard unless accepted in accordance with, so it goes on, does that come into it, the 3.7 and 3.8?
3.7 deals with exceptions to procurement process.
Yeah, what you said.
Councillor Hancock was happy if we just put the one sentence in to clarify it, and that
Yeah,
Yes, put into the local benefit. Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Or if I may, you could, as you said, you could just remove and put the full stop, value for money. Utilised for the inference where value for money exists for purchases, full stop, and get rid of the, because at the end of the day, those asterisks are telling you, I need to get one quote when it's below $5,000. I need to get 2 quotes below $15,000. And when I'm doing that, I need to get value for money. And that's what
And
that's
value for
trying
money
to
just doesn't mean the price.
No,
Value for money means, the quality of whatever you're buying. Is it the value for money for that quality?
the content in their description and their quote, that's, a lot of people look at the bottom line, don't look at exactly what's described in their work they're going to do. You see people get caught out a lot.
So the simplest thing would certainly be to remove the reference to the dollars, and it's just, as you said, originally, I think, which was just to make it value for money and local.
But
So you're
what
just
happens if
taking that
value for money exists and they're a local supplier, but they're, say, in the 200,000 section where they're not ticking other boxes, like risk or?
Well, when you do a normal procurement process, if you're building a road or any of those sort of, if you're getting a contractor, price is one criteria that's assessed when we assess a decision to use a particular supply. It's just one of the criteria. The other criteria will be quality. There'll be whether they're the scope of the works themselves, whether they've got all the appropriate insurances in place. All those things come into the decision-making process. Price is one element of that. And this is really talking about, we use local, we put this weighting on it when it's in relation to price, to give the locals some advantage, but we at the same time we're trying to get value for money, which is what that, the assessment process is trying to determine. What's the best value for council is what that approach is trying to do. So when Cameron goes out to do a tender, that's what he's trying to do, is what's the best value for council? That's what he's fundamentally trying to do. And he's taking all those factors into consideration.
But value for money is not just about money. It's about...
No, that's right,
it's
and that's
about,
what I'm saying.
So
yeah.
it would, well, when I would consider value for money, I'd take in all that. Because it's not value for money if they don't abide by our, if there's a risk or something there and then it costs us more money because of that. So, like, the whole deal is value for money. It's not just about a dollar sign.
Councillor
right.
Davis.
I'm just a little bit concerned about losing the dollar figures in the one star. To play this out, purchase $16,000. How does that work if we go to 3 local suppliers where we're saying it's written correspondence?
If you remember,
And we're applying the weighting as well, which is on the previous page to 43. I think the intent when we were going through it was that we've identified that's where the majority of our spend is. Our supplier engagement is already nearly around 47% for local business, and I can only see that bolstering if that's the target we're looking at in our smaller purchases. I believe we are supporting local businesses above the $15,000 because we're applying a 10% weighting to the assessed price in the criteria. For values over 200,000 and below $1 million, it's 5% for local business a weighting criteria, and 2.5% weighting for those above 1 million. So I'm just worried about the implications it may have to remove that smaller amount and the interpretation of staff.
it's interesting. It's a lot of, sorry.
Get rid of the star altogether. If it is referring back to 3.2.3, which is seek quotes from local business in in the Maranoa in the first instance, it's saying what the intent is. Don't confuse it by having it as part of the table.
Yeah, because it's there clearly in the earlier part, yeah.
Well, that's certainly the simplest way of dealing with it.
Yeah,
Because we deem value for money on page 42 on 3.2.1.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it says what we say value for money is. It's not just about money.
Correct.
So we're already saying that. But, I'll move on because I've got a few questions.
I've got
Sorry.
a question on that table.
Oh yeah.
In relation to the 15,000 to 200,000 round figures, a minimum number of quotes will be invited. I get that. We may in fact not get 3 back. We might only get 1 back. But there'll be a register of where staff have gone out seeking the 3.
So the objective is to use our tools. So like vendor panel is the tool that we use. So we should be dispersing our quotes that way. And we're trying to get all of our suppliers registered into vendor panel. So that way they all receive a notification and we can then tell whether they've opened them or not as well.
That's the register to know that we have at least attempted to get 3 quotes.
It's by far the simplest way of
Okay.
validating that.
No,
Yes.
I'm happy with that.
Councillor Hancock.
Just the 2 paragraphs under the one that I was just talking about, where it says all thresholds are cumulative thresholds. If anticipated value of goods or services of similar nature procured from the same supplier exceeds 200,000 in a financial year or over the proposed term of the contractual arrangement, then a public tender is required. It is expected that officers will have sufficient knowledge through experience and budgets to make these decisions in advance. I actually don't have a problem with it. I support it. But to you, CEO Rob, in practicality terms, as an officer, how do you, we're hiring a water truck for a job, and that's that job, and then like sometimes machinery breaks down and that further on in the year, and so then of course you might be needing to pull in that supplier as well. Just wondering how we actually will be able to. I get that through budgeting and that if they know the big ones. I'm just talking about where you've got to pull in that supplier because of a breakdown or something, and how does an officer deal with that? Because the whole idea of this is to make it easy to do business with council, but it's also to make it easy for our staff to understand.
That's right. And so the staff, through the chair, sorry, the staff should be able to still do just that. And it's, I guess the issue is, in particular in relation to this area here, what we're trying to capture is making sure that when we spend or likely to spend $200,000, that we're doing a proper process, a larger process. Now, tenders are applicable when we know about it. Of course, we're going out to tender, but for those lower ones, that's the purpose of those panels. So those panels mean you don't have to go through the tender process because they've effectively been through a procurement process to get into the panel in the first place, which is why you have preferred supplier arrangements or pre-qualified arrangements. So for those on those pre-qualified arrangements and preferred supplier arrangements, it doesn't really matter. You'll just engage by your normal process. Might only be lots of $10,000 jobs.
Yes.
That's okay. They've been engaged in that way, and that makes sure that we've covered off on the procurement process because we've got all of our licences, we've made sure they've gone through that rigour that would have gone through if you'd done it as a larger tender process.
Okay, that's good. Yep, thank you. Page 48, 3.10, evaluating quote and tender submissions.
3.10, was it? Right.
3.10.
Yep.
Can you just explain this bit for me, where it's got in setting and assessing quote and tender criteria, council applies the below weightings. In A, we're talking about a minimum of 50%, and then pricing may be set as low as 30%. Mm-hmm. And then we talk about our local business benefit, which is in dollar amounts, not percentage amounts. And then we talk about our panel of pre-qualified, and then we say in D that the remaining weighting bringing the total possible score value to 100%. But we've only talked about, is it 50% or is it 30%? And then where's the rest of the percent? Can you just
happy to talk to that. So the idea is that what we're saying is that when we assess, because we're trying to assess best value for money, so we're saying that pricing should form part of the criteria up to at least 50% of the weighting or the assessment criteria, or 30% if for some particular reason it's a really specialist activity and it's less about price and more about quality because for some particular reason. And there are circumstances where it becomes more about the quality of the outcome rather than the price.
Or the risk, yeah.
The risk, yeah, exactly. So what then, when you're doing a tender process or a procurement process, you're then looking at other criteria which make up in total 100%. So you're trying to say 50% of it's price and 50% of it is, I guess, what you'd call qualitative assessment.
But we're not actually putting out a percentage of that breakdown.
Well, when we go to tender, we have to make that, at the beginning, we have to set what our criteria are going to be and that weighting when we are going out to go to tender.
And that could change from tender to tender.
Exactly.
Okay.
And just on the local business benefit, the reason it's got $1 is because it depends. It'll either be 10%, 5% or 2.5% based back on that 3.2.3 thing. So that's why that is,
Yeah, okay. No, that's good. Page 49, the very top, we're talking about a supplier performance, which, I think this is a fantastic policy. It's just some stuff I don't understand. The supplier performance, where it says B, every occasion where supplier performance is poor. Yep. Deemed by who?
By the contract manager. So when they're doing managing the contract, they will have, if they've had a bad experience through doing that process, then they need to make sure that they capture that. And in each case, the supplier should be given natural justice. So they need to make sure the supplier's aware of that.
Okay,
you can't just
giving that, being able to make sure you're giving the feedback. Okay, cool. On page 50, just about the grants and sponsorship. Totally agree with the grants, and then I totally agree where it says sponsorship is the receipt of advertising, naming, attendance and recognition rights in return for the provision of funds or in-kind services. and is therefore a purchasing activity, sponsorship is not the provision of a grant and must align with the requirements and intent of this procurement policy and the legislative sound principles of contracting. With is that saying with our sponsorship, like we don't get quotes, we don't go out to quotes, we get requests. How does that fit into that table? How does sponsorship fit into that table?
I guess this is part of a broader discussion around grants as well, and in kind as well. I guess it's a broader discussion. I guess when we've written this around the concept that council is seeking to get something from that relationship. That's what sponsorship's about.
Yep.
So in that case, it is a procurement activity. It's not a. I know we get approached for sponsorship, but I guess the question then becomes, what are they actually looking for? Are they looking for sponsorship, or are they looking for a grant to support an activity? And a lot of community groups conflate the two or consider them in the same vein, I guess. And I guess that becomes part of the challenge, is the communication, making sure we communicate around that. Well, if you're looking for a grant, ask for a grant. If you're seeking to offer us a sponsorship opportunity, then that's great, but that's a choice for council then to make as to whether it wants to pursue that or not.
So I guess the thing that's probably thrown me is the word sound principles of contracting. And so that sounds like...
Agreements in place, we've gone through.
Yeah. Whereas I 100% agree with what sponsorship is, and I believe that council should be getting something for their money, and that's what sponsorship is. And I'm okay that in our procurement policy that we acknowledge what grants are and what sponsorship is. But when I read that, it just made me, I was a bit confused about when we're talking about contracting, whether then it forms, the whole quote thing. So I just wonder if we just need to tighten up a little bit of that wording, because it's more about just stating what a grant and what a sponsorship is.
It is trying to provide some clarity around what they are. Yes, that is the intent of it.
Guidance and intent, this procurement policy and legislative sound principles.
Meaning that if we are sponsoring something and we expect something back, there should be something in writing between both parties. That's what I read it as, to make sure that we do get what we have asked for in terms of that sponsorship.
A bit like we're doing with our MOUs.
Yeah.
I know, but then our last word there is sound principles of contracting, and then 3.2 is publishing of contractual arrangements. It's sort of, it just for me is thinking that, maybe sponsorship's got to go through the same policy that we're putting on all of the rest of procurement policy, whereas we're really just stating what grants and sponsorship is.
Yeah, and I guess for most of those sponsorship, it'd be unlikely to see too many that move. I mean, there'll be some that are above 15,000 for sure, but you won't see any in the 200,000. Well, you may, I guess. Council may decide to, but you'd expect to be getting something good for it. So you're not going to be worried about that reporting aspect. For example, if you're looking at that next section, it won't apply because they won't be over $200,000.
So, I want to stay on this. On page 69, when we talk about grants and sponsorship and being reworded, and what was in the old policy and what was in the new policy, it has a section in the old policy where it says council may receive incoming sponsorship or sponsorship benefits from an external party. So that's actually about us receiving sponsorship, and that is not noted in our, well, not that I could see it's noted in the procurement
Receiving
policy.
sponsorship.
That's because it's not a procurement activity.
Because they're giving us money.
Well, why was it in our last
Us
procurement
receiving
policy?
sponsorship.
Because so for instance, when we do the Christmas party, the street party, we get sponsorship for that. So we do receive sponsorship, and I suppose if it's not in our procurement policy, so that's fine if we're not putting it in here now. But where are we capturing that, or where should we capture that?
Where should we? It's a good question as to where it's captured.
Well,
Like any other
why
revenue
should we?
stream.
Well, I think we should be, because I think that any sponsorship that is coming to council, that decision should be made at the council table.
So for the Christmas party, when people sponsor, it comes back here for us to say yes?
No, I think that when we're holding an event, if we want to seek sponsorship, it should be about who we're seeking sponsorship from. It should be this decision, and then the staff can go out and do what they do.
Which hasn't happened in the past.
No. And it just stops, Madam Mayor, it just stops the fact that, we're aware of sponsorship and grants opportunities at this council where we might be engaging with people in our community, but our staff might not know that, and so we might be double hitting that one organisation from two different things. It just means that we're all talking we're all on the same page on where we're trying to get sponsorship.
You're trying
from.
to stop the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah.
On this, maybe it's for the sponsorship policy. It's an internal sponsorship. It's how we deal with
Money coming in.
money coming in, and there's a money going out element to that policy.
Okay, so we just
Yeah.
capture it in the sponsorship policy. Okay. I don't have many more, but I think I won't say last. No, it is my last. Page 51. Can you just explain page 51 where it says local business? And I note in our notes that we used to have this as part of the policy, but now we're just putting local business in our definition of what a local business means. So a local business, to be a local business, you either is owned or operated by persons who are residents of the Maranoa Regional, has a place of business within the Maranoa region, or primarily employs persons who are residents or ratepayers from in the Maranoa region. So when we go back to, we want to look at local businesses, support local business where we see value for money, that used to be weighted. Now, I'm not suggesting that it is, but it used to be hold weight on whether you owned and operated and live in the Maranoa, or whether you have a place of business, or whether you actually employ people here but you don't actually hold a shop front here or a business here. Are we now saying in our policy that doesn't hold weight at all, and all our officers just need to look at a local business, as long as they meet those three guidelines, they're a local business?
That's what we're saying. Simplifying the process. We've simplified the policy in the discussion, yeah. That's exactly what
What
we've
we
done.
found is that some of those businesses that are registered 5-star, the directors and all them could have moved on, and all they've got is like these, but it's never been updated. So
Well,
it's
there's
more a simplified that if they're doing business in in the Maranoa, they're a local business.
Yeah, right.
Because there's a lot of business now that they are owned by bigger companies, bought out smaller businesses, but they still employ
Yep.
people, they still live here, they still, they still pay rates.
I think the way to clarify that, because if you can read it that it's cascading,
Yeah.
or you're reading that
Does say
it's
It says and.
It does say and.
So you could just have means of business that in Roman numerals 1, 2, and 3. Like a local business has to be all of those three things.
And that's what it says now.
Yeah,
Well, it
that's what
doesn't.
says.
You could interpret it another way because it's just the 3 dot points.
Is owned and or
And.
operated
It's an
and
and.
has a
Oh,
place
I
of
see.
business and
Does clarify.
primarily employs people. It's only, that is the definition.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's not or, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to be clear on the changes that what been made. That's all my questions.
Does anybody else have any questions? Would someone like to move? Councillor Davis.
Thank you. I'd like to move that council adopt the procurement policy as attached to the officers' report, including the following amendments. Section 3.6, remove the star shown in line items 1 and 2 of the table and remove the corresponding star statement following the table. Also on the star rating 2 stars, remove FNQROC. I'll say it again, Kel. F for Freddie, N for Nelly, Q for Queensland, ROC from the description. Thank you. 2, note the adoption of the procurement policy repeals and supersedes all historical policies relating to the procurement of goods and services. 3, delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to make any administrative updates to existing policies that require reference to the adopted policy as per recommendation 1 above.
Seconded by Councillor Brumpton. Would you like to speak, Councillor?
Thank you, I will. Today I commend the Council's initiative to enhance the development of competitive local businesses and industry through a practical and forward-thinking approach. The shift from the former star rating system to the more direct and impactful local business benefit that we just discussed is both timely and necessary. By seeking local quotes where possible for purchases below $15,000 and embedding a weighted assessment criterion for purchases above that threshold, we are strengthening our commitment to local business. These changes not only level the playing field for our businesses, but also ensure our procurement dollars are invested back into the Maranoa community, stimulating local employment and innovation. The revised procurement thresholds table makes our expectations clear, aligns with the Local Government Regulation 2012, and streamlines the procurement process. It provides clarity for staff and suppliers alike to ensure consistency and accountability in our purchasing decisions. Importantly, this policy reinforces our duty to ensure that every ratepayer dollar is spent wisely, while still affording opportunities for regional suppliers to participate competitively. The documentation requires, particularly for contracts over $15,000, to introduce greater rigour and transparency. This is a step forward in professionalising our procurement processes, while still supporting flexibility and access for local suppliers. This policy strikes the right balance between governance and economic development. It encourages fair competition, supports our local economy, and improves council's value for money outcomes. I strongly support the adoption of this procurement policy today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
I have a question.
Councillor Hancock.
Sorry, just Councillor Davis. I know we've talked about it. I just want to make sure we get it right. I'm just reading back quickly about the local benefit and just with removing that, I understand why you had the star about the I'm back on the local. I'm back on
1 star or the 2 star?
the 1 star, the 2 star. I understand. I love the fact that you're pointing our staff to think local, which I think is really important. Where does it say in the documentation, if we don't have something there, where does it say in the documentation that we should be thinking local? I know that I'm saying under, which is why you had it there to start with. You're looking at me as if say, I can't believe she's saying this. But
I'm just not following. Sorry, can you say it again? Because we've removed the wording under the table.
just because we've removed, I understand why you had under there where appropriate local supplies to be utilised in the first instance where value for money exists. I understand that. It's to try and point our staff to consider value for money with our local businesses.
It's in 3.2.3A.
Can you just show me? 3.2.
3.3A. Seek quotes from local businesses and suppliers in the first instance for purchases below $15,000.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all I wanted to be assured of. Thank you.
Are you seconding now? Oh no, we've already done that. Sorry.
Anyone else like to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mayor. This has been a long time coming in this term to review this policy. I know that it's come via a number of workshops, and I think the questions today illustrate the commitment and interest that councillors have in getting this right. And all credit to our portfolio chair for local business and Councillor Davis in leading this. And I think this is a solid example as to where the portfolio system works. It's intended to allow councillors to lead on particular aspects of what we do as a local government, and this is a prime example. So the procurement policy is a vital document for our community to operate as a council, but it's really important to illustrate to our local businesses how they can do work with us. So I welcome this to the staff. Brett, you and your team that have pulled this together, well done, and I look forward to seeing it enacted.
Councillor Brumpton.
I'd like to reinforce it. I think this is a really positive move forward. We've had discussions in council about some of our procurement challenges. Certainly in the community have heard some issues around procurement and around clarity around the local buy, for example. So I think the amount of work that's been put in to clarify that, and again, it shows a portfolio lead who's had a really special interest in this and has pushed this through and given a lot of thought to that, and working in with the officers has been great. And I hope this does help local business understand how we're making decisions, and also help direct staff around some of the process and what council want to see happen around our local purchasing. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent?
Yeah, I wholeheartely support the adoption of this policy today, and congratulations to Councillor Davis and the work that he's done with Brett and his team. I think it's a simplified policy compared to last time. I think it's 8 pages or something like that now. Close. And I just think that'll be easier for staff and also the local businesses to see how we do business. I think the 5-star rating was appropriate at the time, and I think this is just appreciating all local businesses that do support and employ people in our region are weighted as well. So I do support this policy today.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Hancock.
I too support this policy, and credit to our portfolio chair, Councillor Davis, and through the CEO, Director Brett and your team. Thanks for all the hard work. And I think, as Councillor O'Neill said, we are passionate about getting this right. We do want to make doing business with council easier to do. And we do want to be a council who also supports local business where we see value for money. I think this is a great step in reducing some red tape that we have, and just making it a easier policy for our business community to follow, and also our staff to be able to actually endorse. And so I thank everyone for their hard work, and I also want to say I think this is just the beginning of being able to reduce it. We set the policies, but then there's also some work in progress then to actually put some procedures around how we deliver that policy. And so I just look forward to seeing that next level come through council. So congratulations, and I fully support it.
Anybody else like to speak? I would, but there's nothing left to say. But all credit to you, Councillor Davis. I think you've done an amazing job, and I just think everybody, you've worked really hard. So congratulations, and to you too, Brett, for putting up with her in your office every second day till she got it right. So thank you all very much. Would you like to speak, Councillor?
Just briefly.
Yeah.
With our procurement policy, we're required to adopt it annually. So there is always an opportunity to even go back through the year and revise it. So I think this is just a step in the right direction, trying to simplify doing business with council. And thank you, Councillor Hancock, for the red tape reduction. And it empowers our staff to feel confident in council staff, to feel confident in the decisions that they're making with ratepayer money. So it was a 21-page document. We've now reduced it to 12. Looking forward to getting some outcomes, and also the next step, I believe, from a procurement point of view in the op plan would be that we have a look at our pre-qualified supplier panels and see how they are working for council as well. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Do the next one? 13.1, Surat Water Allocation Update number 4. Councillor Hancock.
I move that 1, council receive and note the report. 2, officers continue to monitor water consumption levels on a regular basis and provide an update to the community. 3, council officers provide an update on the Surat water allocation at the ordinary meeting on 12th of June 2025.
Seconded, Councillor Burkett. Would you like to speak, Councillor?
No, thank you.
Anybody like to speak? Councillor Burkett?
Just to thank staff for getting on top of this. I think it's talking to Director Matt the other day, and I'm pretty sure he's a breeze through the finish line, nearly on target, hopefully. giving the good weather and everything. So it's a credit to pull it back how you did, and a credit to the Surat community for getting on board with the changes.
Councillor Brumpton?
Thanks, yes, to the staff for the work that they're doing. I am a bit concerned when you look at the previous 2 financial years that we're going to be pretty close, if not over. So that 12th of June might be a bit late, but I assume you'll bring something forward sooner if it is going to go over, because last year was 17.5 megalitres per month, and the year before was 21.
Have faith. Have faith.
Yeah, so given hopefully the rain's fallen at the right time, that'll slow up the use a bit, but it is
Hold up.
going to be pretty well line ball from what I can see. Yeah.
Anyone else like to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0.
Thanks, Councillor.
Matt.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Matt.
We're just going to break now for morning tea a little bit early, so a couple of us just got a 15-minute meeting we have to go to. So morning tea will be here at 10 and we'll be back at 10:30. I'll resume the meeting at 10:30 and we're up to 14.1. Applications to the Regional Arts Development Fund RADF Program 24-25. Councillor Brumpton.
I move the council endorse the RADF Committee's grant assessment recommendation in supporting the Roma and District Eisteddfod Regional School Workshop Committee for $3,800.
Seconder, Councillor Davis.
But I do have a question,
Yep.
if we could. Just wondering, it's a bit hard to tell from the information, it may be in here, to go around and hold workshops, is that regionally, and do we know where that will happen?
Through the chair, I believe that, yes, the intent was to be regionally.
There were school support from a couple of different schools, I recall.
Page 84, it says it is recommended that the Roma and District Eisteddfod Regional Workshop Committee application be approved. So
Yeah, probably for me, just if we could have a bit more detail going forward, like where in the region it would be, or just about that would be great.
Did they name it in the application?
I do,
I'm happy.
yeah.
I'm still happy to move.
We had information, yeah. So just for future, just have a little bit more oomph in the report that comes would be good. Yeah.
Thank you. Would you like to speak, Councillor?
Yes, just like to say it's great again to see regional organisations applying for this, and it's great to see that this is a choral one. You know, we do more than arts, painting, whatever. So good to see that this is one that's in the choral perspective. There is some restrictions around Eisteddfods, but this isn't actually for the Eisteddfod. It's the skill gaining to be able to compete in the future. So it was great to see the application coming forward and supported by the schools as well.
Councillor Davis.
Yeah, happy to support. It is a real skill to get up and speak in front of people.
Tell us about it.
So, yeah, and, you know, giving them a bit of confidence to come in and go on with the Eisteddfod by doing these workshops is very good. So happy to support.
Anyone else like to speak? I'd just like to say I think it's great that we're just doing this as they come in. Like, it's just really made a big difference, hasn't it? As Councillor Hancock and I know, so it's really good. All right, would you like to sum up, Councillor?
I don't think there's any need to.
Let's
Thank
go to
you.
the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Thank you. 14.2, 2020, oh, hang on, I'll start again. 2020/20049, change application minor, material change of use dwelling house domestic outbuilding. Councillor Vincent, you have a conflict?
I'd like to declare a conflict of interest on item 14.2, 2020/2049, change application minor, material change of use dwelling house, domestic outbuilding. Declaring councillor is myself. The person with this interest is SJH Builders. My family have had a personal community and business relationship with SJH Builders and the owners of SJH Builders. It is a declarable conflict of interest, and although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Councillor Hancock.
I'm happy to move. Just want to ask one question. Was the owners of Sorry, Cal, can you just go up?
SJH Builders?
SJH Builders, were they at your wedding? No, it's just clarifying how close that personal connection is. Happy to move, Mayor.
Married too long ago.
That is in the public interest that Councillor Vincent participates and votes on agenda item 14.2 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Seconder, Councillor Brumpton, all those in favour? 7-0. Okay, anyone got any questions before we move? Councillor Vincent.
I just wanted to know at what size does a shed stop being a domestic shed and become an industrial shed?
Building certifiers have an old rule of 300 square metres, but it can vary just depending on the use. You can have smaller sheds that are industrial. It comes down to the use more than the size.
Councillor,
I've got questions, yeah.
Councillor Hancock.
When we're taking in the block of land that it's on, are we taking in the both blocks or is it just a single block?
So the original application was issued over the one block. So from an assessment perspective, we have considered it on the one block, but it is becoming amalgamated at some point. So
Is it amalgamated now?
no.
In their request for a minor change, has that been put forward in that request that they're going to amalgamate the block?
No, it's a condition of their building approval because their house on the block next door that's being built is too close to the boundary. So it's a condition of their building approval that those blocks have to be amalgamated at some point.
Sorry,
So-
that has to be,
Yeah.
that does have to be
Yes.
amalgamated.
So therefore we could consider that it's a double block
Yeah.
with this application.
Or one very big block.
Yeah, yeah.
It does have to be amalgamated.
Councillor O'Neill.
You're right, I'm just going to move it, that was all.
I just have questions.
Oh,
You-
sorry.
No, if you've got more questions, I've got questions
Will
too.
you go and I'll come back?
On
I'll
page
follow.
88, Kate, it's got the existing structure has a total area of 152 square metres, being 110 enclosed.
Yes.
Is there an awning already on?
Yes, so the original approval was for 110 enclosed. They then tacked on an awning on the northern side that you can't sort of tell from the aerial, but there is an open awning on the northern side of the shed already that's an extra 42.
Okay. And so this is just a carport extension, isn't it?
Yes, this is another carport extension onto the shed. Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Hancock.
Just a question to the CEO, Rob. I do remember when considering these things in a previous term, that we sort of said like if we okayed this at this size, is that the benchmark that then we go by?
As a rule of thumb, it is, yeah. So basically, your planning scheme sort of outlines the size of the shed. It used to be 80 square metres and then went to 110. But then every time council approved something larger, that became the line in the sand. So if it was 150, then that's what, when we brought a report back, that would be if it was in line with that line in the sand. But if we haven't got anything that to benchmark us against, we haven't approved anything of this size previously, obviously the officer's recommendation is refusal, and when council do approve it, it does become a line in the sand, a precedent, so already certainly an expectation.
Further on to that, Madam Mayor, but when I look at the list of approvals that we've done before, I know that we have considered this before and approved when it has backed onto rural residential. Is there any of these approvals in town?
So
Or is it sort of always sort of on that edge of rural residential that we're considering these larger?
We've probably had other applications for big sheds in town that at officer level given advice that it's inconsistent with the scheme and people haven't gone ahead with it. In the approvals list we gave you, there's probably only 2 that I can definitely think of that are bigger than this proposal, and they are, you might remember Brett Pollock's on Corf Road and then another one on Corf Road. So they are in the general residential zone, but they are, as you said, on the fringe, and they are very big general residential blocks. They're not 800 or even 1600. They're hectares of land that they've put those bigger
Can I
sheds on.
just ask,
I have one more
Joe,
question.
sorry, where does it say that these approvals that have occurred in residential zones are back onto rural?
No, it doesn't. That's the question I asked.
Oh, okay.
And from a previous decision that we made in our previous term,
Yep.
that was part of the consideration and why we made it.
Yeah, right.
I just have one more question, Madam Mayor. My concern is the height of the building. probably more than the size. Because the height of the building is outside of our recommendation.
Yeah.
And the height of the building, does,
Exists. It's already
it's
there.
It's
already
already
there.
there,
The
yeah.
shed's there.
So it's just, so we've already said it's okay to build that height previously. Okay.
Councillor Burkett, do you have a
No,
question?
I'm going to,
I
I'm
just-
moving.
Just for clarity too, CEO Rob, when you say it sets a new benchmark, is there any context around that discussion that Councillor Hancock said? If we've set a new benchmark, is it contextualised as in because it joins onto rural residential? I mean, it's not like it's in the middle of the main street or whatever. If you're saying that if we approve something of a bigger, and there has been previous approvals, I can see, of a larger item, surely there is a context put around it. If council is going to consider something that's outside of the planning thing, we consider it in a context. We don't just do a blanket,
Yeah.
this is why we're doing it type
Desktop,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's reflected in the report
Yeah.
there, because as you said, some of those larger ones, there are large ones, but on obviously larger blocks, so it's the combination of the two.
And certainly looking at the height, I did drive past here on Monday out of interest just so I could, because I hadn't been in that street before, and the house itself is much higher than the shed. So it's not like the shed is out of proportion to the size of the house. The roof height of the house is higher than the shed, I noticed.
Councillor Davis.
Oh, sorry. I just had one more question about the height of the outbuilding. Was that after the fact approved, or the height of the shed was approved as per?
Oh, I would have to look at the original plans to check the elevations. I believe the original shed, was like a barn style, so it had a higher peak with the two lower sides, but I can bring up those.
No, that's okay.
approved plans.
Councillor Vincent.
Mine was just, did we have to consult with the neighbours or surrounding?
No, not for domestic outbuildings.
Okay.
I'll have one little question before I move it. It will come into stormwater as well, the bigger the roof area, and yeah, to get to the gutter. So that's a significant thing, I suppose. I'm happy to move if there's no.
Have we got any more questions? Councillor Davis, you right?
Big sigh.
I just wondered, you're looking.
Any approvals we've given, so this block will be amalgamated at some point, and you've given us examples of where it has been approved. Is there any blocks that have been approved that are the same size in a residential area?
We've got 108 square metres on a 1,400 square metre block, so that would be a comparable lot size, and that would be the shed size they were originally approved at.
So just on, so the lot sizes are similar, what are the, what's the size difference? Shed.
So the shed, the first one I found was 108 square metres, so that's what they got originally. There's a second one on a 1,700 square metre block that totals 150, so probably what's currently on the ground.
Yep. But not what's been proposed.
I can't see any that are on that sort of 1,600, even accounting for the second block that go to 225 squares. Yeah.
Thank you.
No more questions? Councillor Burkett.
Okay, I'd like to move that we approve the application for a minor change for application 2020/20049, domestic outbuilding on the land situated at 68 Highview Close, properly described as Lot 4 on SP 268229.
I'd like to second that.
Oh, is that it? Oh, you didn't read it, okay. Seconded by Councillor Brumpton, would you like to speak?
I just have a question.
Yes, Councillor.
On that, do we, just to, through the CEO to Officer Kate, if we approve this, if it goes ahead, don't we have to have, isn't there some conditions? Like, normally we say approval on as following conditions. Do we have a alternative resolution in this report? I didn't read one.
No, we didn't prepare an alternative, so we can, if you're wanting to approve it, we can provide you with an alternative.
Mayor, I move that we lay this on the table until further in the meeting, until we can get, through the CEO, an option of if we do approve it, what our recommendations should be.
You might have some statement of reasons too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favour? 8-0. Lay it on the table till later in the meeting. We've got a late agenda. L1, Youth Council Conception Decision at Council Workshop. Do I have a mover? Councillor O'Neill.
Change it slightly, Kel, please, or, the resolution, what I move is that Council 1 give in principle support to the concept of a Maranoa Youth Council. 2, receive a report via a briefing. Then further consider as part of the 25-26 budget deliberation.
I have a seconder. Councillor Hancock, would you like to speak, Councillor?
Yeah, thanks very much, Mayor. I think this is a really good concept that Council should consider further. There are some really solid examples of the establishment of youth councils in other local governments across the state, both in a regional context and being a larger council, and then at a smaller rural level as well. I think the engagement of the next generation coming through, it will be nothing but an advantage to our community. We, pleasingly, this term of council, we, as I've shared previously, have the youngest cohort of councillors in the history of the Maranoa Regional Council, and I think that's really positive. The way to continue to, call people to, serve their community is for them to understand the ins and outs. And I think a youth council would provide an opportunity to showcase that. More importantly, of course, I think a youth council based in the Maranoa would give a perspective that would be welcomed around this table from young people have a voice, and we had some of them come and join us in the previous term to put their case forward on what they were passionate about. The establishment of the pump track in Roma that initial concept came from a younger member of our community approaching council, and excitingly that went all the way through to fruition. And I think any initiative that we can do to back the next generation to step up and be leaders in our community is only a positive. And whilst there's a lot of meat to put on the bones as how we want this to look and feel and work for our particular local government, this is the first step to doing so. And I brought this forward now. I know we've had some light conversation around this in terms of a project for budget, but I think we need to take this now and start to form it how we would like, so that we've got the right budget allocation for the forthcoming budget, with the likelihood of this type of initiative not kicking off until early 2026. But this would provide us the opportunity to start that process and consult with who we need to, both internally, externally, other local councils, so that we can have this ready to go for later in the year.
Thank you. Councillor Burkett.
Yeah, I'll support this today. I think it will work. Bringa had a youth worker 20 years ago, I suppose, and a youth council as well, and they conducted regular meetings and they volunteered through that. I think with the volunteering shortage that we have, engaging these guys also to liaise with schools and get the student councils back strong again, because kids will learn at a young age how to conduct a meeting and have positions that hopefully we can slot them into community groups and sporting groups. So yeah, I'm fully supportive. I think, and we did talk about it. The distance-wise, if it's a regional one, they can always zoom in and even do it through a school process. So fully supportive of going to the next stage with this.
I think actually Councillor Hancock had some in the chambers in Surat yesterday.
I was going to speak
So
to
he
that.
said, yes, you can. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I fully support this. Like Baringa, Wurrushire Council had a youth council, and it was really strong. And it did volunteer, but it also provided great insights to the councillors of the day. And so it does work, and so I'm fully supportive of this. And I did have the privilege of having Surat State School, a class of Surat State School students in the chambers yesterday, where we hosted a mock council meeting. So someone got to be the mayor, the CEO, the officer, and the councillors, and they all had their little badges. And I put to them, at a young age, the Surat raw water allocation issue, and should we have a restriction, or should we just pay the fine and have a beautiful town? They were so engaged and they were so thoughtful. The vote was 5-4 for the restrictions, so but they genuinely want to learn about this, and their engagement was amazing. And the stuff that they told us outside of that, I'm taking away as a councillor, and you'll see me bring to the table. So I think there is real future in our youth. And I think that understanding of how to conduct a meeting and how to conduct themselves in a meeting is a real asset. And so I'm fully supportive of this concept.
Very good. Anyone, Councillor Vincent?
Yeah, I'm supportive of this. From the volunteer strategy, we have learnt that there is a great need to invest more into our youth to get them coming through the pipeline. And yeah, like Joe, we had the kids in here doing the events, and that was really enjoyable to see their engagement in the chambers here. And yeah, I'd like to see it develop into something, where they can come up with workshops to bring skills to other youth, to keep building on what they know.
I think Rob and I got the grade 4s coming shortly, haven't we? Yeah. So we'll have to think of something for them to decide. Maybe it'll be about the pool. Councillor Davis.
I was actually going to say the talk of the St John School is in Year 4. You do get a visit from the mayor, so it's quickly becoming something that they look forward to. And after sitting as a judge on the Lions Youth of the Year just recently, we have some very bright, talented, community-focused individuals in our town. So, and I think after Student Rep Council, what next for these people? So I do see this as an opportunity for the next step of those people wishing to, further go on with their volunteering and having a voice in our community. And welcome once we get down to the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. Anyone else like to speak? Would you like to sum up, Councillor?
I think it's all been said.
It has. On that, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. L2, Maranoa Medical Bursary Program.
I'm happy to move this, but there might be some questions, so
I was just,
yeah.
just see if anyone's got any
I
questions.
do have
Welcome
one
to Neil.
suggested
Yes.
change. On our page 10, on the application form, item 1, it's got medical pathway. Can we change that to nursing pathway, which is the application form? Item 1 at the top, it's nursing pathway that they're doing, but I understand there might be other questions, or else I'm happy to move if there's not.
So this one councillor was laid on the table there, and I just asked to go back and consult with South West Health on the success of the two.
Yes,
previous,
and that's
so
been included,
added
yeah.
that in there for you.
Okay, I'll move.
Yep.
I move that Council 1 adopt the Maranoa Nursing Advancement Bursary Program Framework document, including the following amendment. P10, change medical pathway to nursing pathway. Page 10, that is, sorry. 2, launch and deliver the Maranoa Nursing Advancement Bursary Program for 25-26. 3, form an assessment panel comprising 2 counsellors and 3 nursing professionals to decide the successful candidates. Do we need to bring that then back to... once we form the panel to advise council of the.
Did it have to come back?
Yes. So for the nominees, the the recommended nominees be provided to council for endorsement.
I just got a question that might have to add it in nowadays. I don't know how to say this politically correct. This day and age we live, should be an extra dot on who you identify as. Should that be in there down the bottom? Personal information. Do you got to say that male, female, or other?
It shouldn't have any implication.
No, but I'm just. Has there got to be a box to be ticked? Is that
No, because we haven't asked them whether they're male or female.
No, that's
anyway,
all
it
good.
doesn't
I just
matter.
wondered
It's
whether it was
not
a requirement nowadays
Yeah.
because you see some forms and it scares you.
Oh, no, I don't.
Thank you.
We're our own government. We
Yeah.
decide what we do.
No,
Yeah.
happy with that?
Yeah. Do we have a seconder?
Oh,
Are we awake? That's good. Councillor Vincent. Would you like to speak, councillor?
Yes, look, we did lay this on the table because we wanted to see what the success of the previous one. We've already discussed the childcare bursaries at a previous meeting. We do have a student doctor who's continuing on, but we decided that we wouldn't continue that at this stage. We know that there's lots of other avenues for medical bursaries. I know from having worked in health for nearly 30 years that trying to retain and upskill nurses in the local area is always a challenge. Some of it because it is a major female workforce and it's hard for them to access and build their skills up. And certainly there's more specialist fields available locally if locals can be skilled up into those. And it gives the community then higher skills and access to higher trained nursing professionals. So I fully endorse this and support that whilst it's not in council's core business, it's part of the livability of the community and any small bit that we can do to assist in some of the health side of the community. And it's something we can review in 12 months' time and see, do we want to continue doing this or not?
Anyone else like to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to move an amendment or what yet, but it's not. I think we need to tighten the resolution. In the budget, it talks about 55,000 remaining in the budget for this year. That's clear. It's recommended the remaining budget be carried over. Yep, we need to do that. It require a $5,000 top up to 60,000. We are committed to providing the $20,000 to the student each year, subject to submitting whatever. But this is increasing the bursaries from 3 to 4. We had 3 nursing bursaries last year. I don't know why we increase it to 4. And so that we probably need to just, the framework doesn't.
Where does it say how many we're having anyway?
So it's on page 8 in the framework. So it's got up to 4 bursaries.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I just think we should maintain it at 3.
But up to doesn't mean we're going to 4.
You put a budget.
But then the budget.
Yeah.
So rather than allocating further budget, we just say up to 3 and then we don't have to allocate.
It's
further.
covered then.
Yeah.
And then the Councillor Brumpton, just with the panel, I don't disagree with having nursing professionals on it. I do think there is an advantage to having a representative from South West Hospital and Health Service in, and Dr. Brown has, if I'm reading this report right, he's backing it. We've asked him to provide feedback both formally and informally. I just wonder, could we specify in there, and the CEO of South West Hospital and Health Service is one of the panellists?
And Dr. Brown mightn't be the CEO down the track. I don't know. Whether they're a professional or not, or delegate. Yeah. Yeah. One of whom.
May not be
Yeah.
Dr. Brown.
True.
There is other people within the organisation.
Yeah.
Probably with the midwifery, defined area.
Because the reason I raise that is that the nursing professionals, we may actually go out to people that aren't currently operating as nurses within South West Hospital and Health. There are other professionals that are nurses in our community that we might
Yeah.
see as part of the panel.
Because it might be Chris Small or...
Yeah, well, he's the District Director of Nursing and Midwifery, so Executive Director, so, yeah, and I probably didn't help that because it did say 3 medical professionals before, and there's nothing nurses hate more than doctors making decisions about their future. So I know from working in health, but the CEO, because the CEO isn't a nursing professional, so we probably need to say 2 nursing professionals plus a delegate, the CEO or a delegate from, just because then it opens it up to whoever the CEO is, whether they're a nursing professional or a medical professional. Is that better, Councillor O'Neill?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Councillor Brumpton, is it HCE rather than CEO?
Yeah,
It's HCE, isn't it?
yeah,
I think he's Dr. Brown's title,
yeah.
Health Chief Executive, yeah, HCE.
Yeah.
And
Are you happy with that, Councillor
Councillor
Vincent? Are
Vincent?
you happy with, as a seconder, that change of wording in item 3?
Councillor Hancock?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to speak against.
Mm-hmm.
While I am understanding the gap that we have in medicine in our regional community, councillors, I'm just not sure that this is the right time to be doing this again. And I'm happy for you to debate and change my opinion at this table. I'm happy to hear from that because I really am struggling with this decision. For me, I understand the issue. I understand it does add to livability, and I understand that we do support in other areas of our community where there's gaps. My concern is we've had a deficit budget this year. We're looking at, a deficit budget next year. We have our assets of our own buildings that need desperate money spent on them that I don't know if we can afford. And I just think that at this time, that this isn't where we should be investing our dollar. Because I also know that there is other bursaries, other companies do have bursaries for education for rural students. And I just wonder, for me, I would rather try and to connect those dots and make those bursaries that are already out there for this reason, and not just in health, but in other education, in other fields, whether we could try and connect them rather than doing a medical bursary program. So right now, unless you can sway me in debate, I just feel that we just can't afford it.
Mm-hmm. You haven't spoken at all yet. have you?
Yeah, I spoke at.
Yeah, I just
Are
thought
you
you asked a
calling for
question.
against or for?
I'm calling for. Anyone else like to speak for?
Sorry, Meryl, did you ask a question? Did you go on and talk?
Oh, did I speak?
I
Well,
moved it.
No,
but
yeah, I
she
moved
asked a
it, I did
question
s-
first.
You haven't spoken.
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm happy to
Yeah,
speak,
I
but
think
you've
she asked
spoken
a
against
question.
now, so I'd rather. Yeah.
Well, you did.
I did speak, but I don't think it was for the.
You said you asked a question.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if you went
But then I said I was happy to move. No, I did speak when I
Yes, you
moved
did
it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes,
Sorry.
sorry.
Okay, so for? Anybody else like to speak
Well,
for?
I'll speak
Councillor
for
Vincent.
because I've seconded it, but I'm probably not going to convince Jo because her debate is nearly swayed me back the other way. So it's a bit tricky, but probably for me, like I know there was someone chosen last year that has upskilled to a state that can cover for doctors in our small communities, not as a doctor, but just to a higher level to give them those skills to be able to assist when there's no doctor on site. So I just see that as a benefit for our smaller communities that are struggling to maintain a doctor's presence in the community. I do agree with Councillor Hancock that it's probably not the time. Maybe because we've had it last year and again this year, that maybe next year we let it slide for a while. But yeah, sorry, I can't convince you either way.
Against? Councillor Davis.
I do agree with everything Councillor Hancock has said, but I also agree that it is a benefit to the community having these higher skilled workforce in our communities in health. It's not a little bit of money or council doing a little bit. It's $30,000 of ratepayer money, and I would take that and invest it into our ageing assets as well. So I also don't believe that anyone goes into a higher nursing degree because Maranoa Regional Council offers them $10,000 to do so. They're actually furthering their career, and they've also obviously felt a pull from their values or where they want to go and their goals in life. Not saying I wouldn't consider it in future, but today I won't be supporting.
Someone else like to speak for? Councillor
Yeah,
Burkett?
I'll support this. I think there's still a need in the community for doctors and higher professions in the nursing field. So I think it's important that we do look after the small areas that are crying out for this. And growing our own is a good thing. Not that I agree with it all the time, but I think growing our own and having the CUC right on our doorstep and be able to help them and all that, I think everything's gelling together. And maybe down the track we have a year off or whatever, but I think at the moment we've sort of got to keep that roll on from the success of last year. So, yeah, I'll support this.
Against? For? Councillor O'Neill?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll support this because I can see how that it has benefited our region from a nursing perspective. I'm yet to see the investment and haven't been swayed that the investment into the medical bursaries for doctors is going to be an investment long term. And so I'm supportive this year because this is tailoring to the nurses, which is about growing our own, about upskilling people that already reside in the Maranoa to offer increased medical care. I think the benefit of having more nurse practitioners that can do a little bit more than what nurses do, obviously less than what doctors do, but it's that middle ground to help support particularly the smaller communities that make up the Maranoa. In terms of the financial contribution, I'm comfortable with it this year because we're carrying over already agreed and allocated funds. If this was about new money, then I probably wouldn't support it this year. And on that basis, I probably won't support it if this was proposed for next year. But given that we had already made the decision in this term of council to carry that over last year, and this is further to that contribution, then we aren't allocating new money. And so I think it's an investment worthwhile, given the return that we've seen in the report on, at least 2 of the nurses upskilling and providing that increased level of care and when they've completed their courses into our region. And so on that basis, I'm happy to support it this year, but I think we need to have a robust and solid conversation and a debate about what we do in the forward years in terms of the nursing bursary. We are committed because of the decision borne by the previous term, and we need to honour that in relation to our student that's undertaking her medical degree for the life of her medical degree, as long as she meets the criteria on an annual basis. We need to follow that through, and on my calculations, that will probably step into the next term of council after this one as well. So we need to honour that because that would be the right thing. But as I say, I think next year a much more robust conversation needs to happen in terms of this investment. But I'm comfortable with it, given that it's not new money.
Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Surat.
I'd like to speak for the motion today. I definitely come from a community that does have a clinical nurse, and it has been an amazing part of our community. Would probably be truly overwhelming the local hospitals here and doctors and practitioners here in Roma if we didn't have that for us. So if anyone, upskill, it probably really comes back to as well the assessment panel. The people applying have to be assessed, and that might be weeded out in that process as well. That if it isn't a genuine, application, that funding isn't actually allocated. We don't have to, allocate or award someone that bursary just for the sake of it's there. If we don't feel like it's going to be a genuine application, then it doesn't need to go through. But for the sake of if it does sort of maybe restrict someone who might not have that funds behind them to want to upskill, but they want to upskill, I'd gracefully, if we ask some of the ratepayers, I'd gracefully hate it if we did restrict someone who could not potentially afford it, and their best interest is in wanting to help people. That's why they're in that industry. So my support is for that today, to just try help get more of these these clinical nurse specialists and just upskill our general nurses in our communities.
For me, I'm going to support it too. And one of the reasons I supported it last time was the fact that if they want to upskill, they don't get paid for that 10-week that they have to go away and do whatever they do or whatever that looks like. So for me, it was trying to help them that they could afford, even if they, some of them have to leave their family to go away and do this. So for me, it was a matter of trying to help them. Like, I know one girl that wanted to do midwifery, but there was no way she could go 10 weeks without a pay. So for me, it was to help them to do that. So I will support it too. And like Councillor O'Neill said, we've got the budget for it this time, and we did want to try and grow our own. So, and I don't think we've achieved all that we thought we could with this. So for me today, it will be a yes as well. So. Would you like to sum up, Councillor Brumpton?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I really thank everyone for their input and listening to the pros and cons. I certainly, there's a couple of issues there. Oh, not issues, just a couple of clarifications from me. $40,000 or 30 sounds like a lot when you talk about it in a figure like that. It is less than 0.0004% of our budget, if you put it in the terms of our budget. We give lots of grants and things like that to other organisations. So in terms of comparative to what we spend for the year, I think for the benefit of the communities, and we've heard what happens when we lose doctors, and we know that's where the workforce is going. We've got a health service chief executive that's supportive of it, so can see the benefit for our community. If we want to do a small thing out of such small component of our budget that might actually have health services accessible for our community, 1, allow nurses to upskill, 2, and just add to that livability, I think it's worth us doing. I do acknowledge too that the fact is it is in our budget this year and we're rolling over, so we're actually not asking for a pull on our budget. And I think in 12 months' time, if we look at it again and find out how it's gone and what it's doing, and is this the right thing for council to do, but I do think it's a value proposition for our community on what we spend, and it can make a huge difference to a community. So that's my feeling for it, and thank you for all your input.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? 6-2. Thank you. L3, Services Building Roma Future Purpose. Leo, you're the only one left. Councillor O'Neill, sorry.
I'll move the Council 1 undertake an expressions of interest EOI process to assess interest from potential tenants for the services building located at 85 to 91 Bowen Street, Roma. 2, invite respondents to the expression of interest to provide A, details of their proposed use of the premises, B, capacity to manage and operate the facility in compliance with relevant regulations of their proposed use, C, the potential benefits to the local community and or business sector, D, requirements for fit out and anticipated financial contributions, E, proposed commercial rental terms, including the rental amount offered for tenancy, and 3, receive a further report on the outcome of the expression of interest process, including recommendations for the future use and management of the space at an upcoming council meeting.
Seconded, Councillor Hancock. Anyone got any questions? They will be told that it's educational purpose, yeah. It's part and parcel, yeah, okay. Would you like to speak, councillor?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just in terms of 3 there, Cal, management of the space via briefing and then further considered at a upcoming council meeting. I'm supportive of us going out to an expression of interest process on this particular facility. We had long discussions about that in the 2020 to 24 term of council. The use for that land is education purposes. We know that. Endeavour had it for a long time. It has been a positive step for council to acquire the building, whilst we've got a long-term lease and don't currently own the land. We've got a long-term lease there. If we can flush out an appropriate tenant to use this particular asset, then I think that will be an advantage to council. We are obviously been talking for some time in and around the pressures that our community is facing with childcare. I'm not suggesting that that's where it lands, but it could, and I think that would be a positive for our region. The way that this particular land and building backs onto the pump track, the skate park, the land beside it. We've got the community gardens directly behind it. I just think all ties in very nicely to being something very much community orientated with an education flair. So putting it out to an expression of interest, we are going to flush out who's out there and what they may wish to do with this particular site. So I look forward to this coming back as soon as I possibly can.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Davis.
Just got a question. Whilst we are undertaking the EOI process, would it be beneficial for council to make inquiries about the process of not being educational as well? So if we do get the EOIs back and there's nothing, we're not starting from the start again, it's running concurrently. Could that be something that council
I think that when
do?
we talked about this previously there, we had reached out to the department there just for a little bit of advice, but at that stage we hadn't heard anything back. But have we heard back at all?
No, we haven't.
Okay, no, we can continue those inquiries.
We will follow.
I think it was on our radar to ask. Yep. Anyone else like to speak? Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Thank you. Conflicts of interest into closed. Councillor Burkett, you're up first.
Yeah, item C2, description, Mitchell Arison Combined Sports Club Incorporated Management Agreement. Declaring council as myself, the person of interest is myself. I'm the president of the Mitchell Arison Combined Sports Club, so I have a conflict on this management agreement, user agreement, management agreement. It's a prescribed conflict of interest, and I'll leave the room while the matter's discussed and voted on.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent?
No.
C9?
Not,
No?
Councillor Davis.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Davis, sorry. I've got
We're all different people today.
I'd like to declare an interest on item C9. The description is letter for support easement in state lease over a reserve lot 221 on WV 1352. The declaring councillor is Councillor Amber Davis. The person with the interest is myself and my husband Wayne Davis. The particulars of the interest are that we own and operate Bessie's Ice Cream Bus and in the past have been engaged by the requester's client to attend their events. The type of conflict, it's a declarable conflict of interest. And although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Somebody got some words? Councillor Surat.
I move those in the public interest that Councillor Davis participates and votes on agenda C9 because a reasonable person will trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Seconder. Councillor Vincent. All those in favour?
I've got a conflict on it.
Oh, sorry.
I shouldn't have voted either. Not this one.
No, not on this one. You have it on this one too. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I'm up to 7-0. Councillor O'Neill.
I too would like to declare an interest on C9 letter of support easement in state lease over reserve lot 221 on WV 1352. Declaring Councillor Cameron O'Neill, person with interest is myself. Particulars in interest, the requester of this support letter is a foundation sponsor of Maranoa Country University Centre. It's a type of conflict is declarable action. Although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Have a mover, Councillor Vincent.
I move that it is in the public interest that Councillor O'Neill participates and votes on agenda item C.9 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Seconder, Councillor Burkett. All those in favour? 6-0. Someone move us into closed, please.
Sorry,
How can it be
Councillor,
six,
it's, actually the previous one should be 6-0 also, not 7-0.
Yeah.
6, sorry.
Yeah.
6, yeah, because you're out, sorry, yeah. Councillor Hancock.
Happy to move into close, Madam Mayor. I move that in accordance with provisions of section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, that Council resolved to close the meeting to the public at 11:20 a.m. to discuss confidential items that its councillors consider is necessary to close the meeting. In accordance with section 254J5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the following table provides the matters to be discussed and an overview of what is to be discussed while the meeting is closed. Item agenda C1, Cafe on Second, option to renew lease. C2, Mitchell RSL and Combined Sports Club Inc. Management Agreement. C3, Tender 25035, lease of land for grazing purposes, part of Lot 39 on R869. C4, renewal of trustee lease over part of Lot 356 on R861. C5, request for reviews renewal of lease over reserve lot 10 on EG 174, reserved for camping purposes. C6, request for views renewal or lease over reserve lot 3 on EG 105, reserved for camping, water and road. C7, request for views renewal or lease over reserve lot 9 on EG 174, reserved for camping purposes. C8, request for views renewal or lease over reserve lot 30 on SP 145274, reserved for camping purposes. C9, letter of support easement on state lease over reserve lot 221 on WV 1352. C10, Biosecurity Advisory Committee recommendations of appointments. C11, tender 25037, purchase and removal of stockpiled manure, Roma sale yards. C12, Tiffin Street North, Roma, curb and channel western side scope and budget review. C13, funding opportunity, residential activation fund. And that is it.
Have a seconder? Councillor Seawright. All those in favour? 8-0. We're in closed.
Well done, Joe.
We all
So we'll reconvene the meeting at 1:56, and could someone move us out of close, please? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Burkett. All those in favour? 9-0. Right, moving on to C1.
No, it's 14.2 we were going to.
No, we weren't. Oh, yeah, sorry, we were. We changed our mind. I mean, we did, yes. 14.2, 2020/20049 chains application minor, material change of dwelling, house, domestic outbuilding. Do I have a mover?
Yeah,
Councillor
I
Burkett.
did move
Oh, did you?
earlier.
Oh, you
started.
You did, and I.
No, I said the whole thing. And I don't know whether we had a second. Yeah, got a second.
You didn't say the whole thing because we laid it on the table to get conditions.
I read it out.
You didn't read the conditions?
No,
They're on you.
I read exactly what I wanted to read.
Oh, you don't want any
Oh, you don't
conditions?
want-
No, but then you just wanted some other. I pulled up at SP 268229 full stop. Like
Do you want those conditions?
well,
I just want to ask a question about, just can you explain that there's marked in red? Is that red that's in here?
So this is an existing approval that's being changed to add the additional carport. So those marks in red were from the original approval that council marked up the site plan. So that's why in the new condition 6, we've got the additional plans for the carport extension.
Because we're approving it now, councillor Berger, I understand we actually have to approve it as a change to the original.
Yeah.
Which is why the wording is different to what was in the original motion.
With those conditions.
Yeah, with the original, yeah.
That still gets to the end result done, but
You're approving it?
Yes.
Yes. Would you like to read it out again?
yeah, I move the council issue a change of decision notice to the relation to the existing development approval, reference 2020/20049 for material change of use, dwelling house domestic outbuilding at 8 Highview Close, Roma, properly described as Lot 4 on SP 268229, reflecting the changes as follows. Do I have to list all that because that'll be
It's
in the open? So
I'm happy to second.
Seconded by councillor Brompton. Would you like to speak, councillor?
yeah, just and the officers probably get sick of me in the last few years saying this, but I think some of these do need to move with the way the world's changing, with people having bigger cars, everything's getting bigger. We're starting to sound like America, but so people want that extra space in the yard, and I think this location is a big block, plus there's a future amalgamation with the house block that they're building next door. So I don't think it looks out of place. If we want to encourage people to build in our area, I think we've got to bend a bit to help that out, to keep people in these areas. And especially this couple, they're invested in the town, they run a business and they've got a small family, so we don't want to chase them out. Fully supportive of this new resolution as it stands.
We need a statement of reason.
Once we
go
approved.
through.
Oh, once it's moved, sorry. Anyone else like to speak?
I'd like to speak for, but does anyone want to speak against?
Anyone against? Councillor Davis. Oh, do you want to speak?
Yes, thanks, since I'm voting against. Look, it would be great to have a massive shed, and no, we don't want to chase any people out of town, but we've also got to weigh that up with the Maranoa planning scheme and, what we have previously held other builders and homeowners to. So, and in the context of location, yes, it does back onto rural property, but it is still zoned residential. And we are setting a precedent, so whatever is decided here today, you have to be happy with 18 square metre block. We're going to be putting a shed on there that is 62 square metres smaller than the house that will be amalgamated on the same block. So they do have a lovely shed on it at the moment, and I do know that a carport would add to the appeal, but I won't be voting in favour of this motion.
Thank you. For Councillor Brompton.
I'd like to speak for this, and I think while the planning scheme is fairly rigid in some respects, we do have the leeway to look at this, and I think we need to look at things in context. This block does join onto a rural property, and if you look at the plans, the actual adjoining shed is about 3 times the size of the shed that is being extended here. So in terms of context around when we're going outside the planning scheme, I think that has to be considered. And if we are setting a precedent, but if we're going to do a statement of reasons, and if future council is looking at decisions and why they were made, you look at visual amenity in the area, there's already a big shed right in the adjoining property. It's on the very outskirts of town. And I think some of those decisions we do need to look in context. I don't know these people. I did drive past and have a look, so I could get an idea myself. And I'm quite happy to support it on that basis.
Thank you. Anyone else against? Councillor Vincent.
Yes, I'm going to vote against this one today, through the sheer size of the shed. It is on a residential zone, and I know the shed that Councillor Brompton is talking about is on a rural zone, so different zoning there. We are setting a precedent for future bills for a block this size, and on that, that's why I'll be voting against it today. And by no means am I trying to stop them from living in our community and enjoy enjoying what we've got to offer here.
Anyone else for? Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, I'm going to support this today based on the conversations that we've already previously had at the meeting. Coming into it, I wasn't so supportive of it, but I think that we've been able to talk about it, and I'm comfortable because it is on the edge of the residential and rural zoning. Yes, it is residential, but it is on the edge, and we have previous councils have approved bigger sheds where we can take in consideration where the block is. I'm also, what's changed my support towards it is the fact that there is going to be the blocks that are amalgamated, which will make it a bigger block for that shed to go on. And I do understand and I do support our planning scheme that we have, but that's the reason why case by case it can come to council and councillors consider whether they approve it or not based on a case by case situation. And so that is why today I'm going to support this.
Anyone else like to speak against? Anyone else for? Councillor O'Neill?
I'll speak for. I just got a question first. Through the Mayor, Rob, when we were dealing with this matter earlier, it was shared with the room that the line in the sand changes when we make a decision like this.
Just probably just to clarify there, just from the officer's point of view, the planning scheme, nominates a size, but every time council goes beyond that, the staff are happy to, say to council, okay, we have approved others of similar size and
it
make
still
recommendations.
comes to the table though.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's why I just wanted clarity on.
Still an oversize, yep.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to speak in favour of it because and I do so on the basis that I think we need to look at these applications on a case-by-case basis. And we've got a planning scheme in place, and I support that planning scheme, even though we're getting to a point where it's coming up for review. But we need to have, and we are afforded, the ability to have some flexibility in this room. That's why we were elected to consider these matters. And for me, the fact that it does adjoin a rural parcel of land is a consideration. The fact that this extension is for a carport is another consideration. The substantive shed has already been approved and it's constructed, it's there now. This is a add-on, yes, it does increase the footprint, but it is for a carport. And so given that factor, that it's abutting up to rural, and the fact that this is two town-sized blocks ultimately being amalgamated, while they're not currently amalgamated today, that is the plan. The house being built, owned by the same people, they're conditioned that there is an amalgamation that happens with the blocks. I'm comfortable with the decision if council resolves to support the resolution, to give approval to this application today, recognising that our planning schemes are important and we should adhere to them as best we can, but there's always going to be the exceptions. And I think if we are considering these, again, on a case-by-case basis, and we look at all of the factors when we do so, we're doing the right due diligence around our decision, and on that basis, I'm happy to support it.
Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Burke, would you like to sum up?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I definitely case by case. And like Councillor Brumpton said earlier, it's aesthetically pleasing. It's not like overshadowing the house, like by no means. So it doesn't affect anyone's view or stuff like that. Definitely a carport. It's not going to be closed in, so it's not going to be an effect like that. Definitely the shed was approved before council, before these guys bought it. So that was all in place. They haven't really altered that. On the larger block, so I think, and as well as backing on the rules, so I think it ticks a lot of positive boxes, so definitely happy to support.
All right, on that note, we'll go over the vote. All those in favour? Against? 7-2, thank you.
It's a statement of reason.
Oh, statement of reason?
Larger, potentially, what do you call it, amalgamated blocks, a larger block. would you say potentially amalgamated? Just say larger block.
We know it's a
It will be.
Condition to be amalgamated.
Condition to be amalgamated.
The block is conditioned to be amalgamated, so therefore makes it
Yeah.
larger.
What's that word you used before, Meryl? When you said,
in the context of the local area because of the rural.
yeah, no, like I said, it's aesthetically pleasing, but that wasn't the word you used.
Visual amenity, I think.
Visual, and it fits within the visual
Yeah.
amenity of the area, thanks.
I think that'll do, yeah.
Due to the fact there's a large residential shed,
Rural.
rural shed backing onto it. Of the area. It's not block.
We're all over it, Kel. You heard it that much today.
I would like to add in there that the block is situated on the edge of rural residential.
Block or allotment?
Well, the allotment is probably a nicer word, yeah, instead of the block, but the location, yeah.
The allotment is situated on the edge
We'll probably change the top.
of residential abutting rural.
Cal, if you could just change the word block in the first bit one to allotment as allotment.
And in that last line, Kel, it'll be the allotment is situated on the edge of residential abutting rural zoning. Not residential. Because it's rural, not rural res.
Yeah, I think it's rural.
Rural,
as you
yeah.
said.
The block is
Second
rural,
last word in the whole lot.
then there's rural res further west.
All right?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, guys.
C1, cafe on second, option to renew lease. Do I have a mover? Councillor Vincent.
I move that Council 1 approve the extension of the Injune commercial space lease agreement with Womblebank Sawmilling Co Proprietary Limited for a further 1-year term until the 2nd of July 2026. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to execute documentation relating to the renewal of the lease.
Seconded, Councillor O'Neill. Would you like to speak, Councillor?
No, just congratulations to Nikki as always for the business that she runs up there on the veranda. It really does add to the vitality of the region.
Anyone else like to speak?
Yeah, I'd just like to say the same. We hear nothing but positive things come out of Injune in regards to Nikki and the business over the last few years, so no, wish her all the best.
All right, with that, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C2, Councillor Mitchell RSL and Combined Sports Club Inc. Management Agreement. Councillor Burkett is leaving the room. Do I have a mover?
I move that we lay this on the table until a future meeting.
Thank you. All those in favour? 8-0. Councillor Burkett is back. C3, tender 25035, lease of land for grazing purposes, part of lot 39 on R869. Councillor Davis.
I move that Council 1 accept the tender submitted by Peter Reiser as the recommended tenderer for the tender 25035, lease for grazing purposes over part lot 39 on R869 95 McPhee Street, Roma. 2, delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to enter into final negotiations with the successful applicant and execute the lease for the term of 2 years. 3, assign the income to GL 1491.1075 lease income.
Have a seconder. Councillor Brompton, would you like to speak, Councillor?
No, thank you.
Anyone like to speak? Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C4, renewal of trustee lease over part of lot 356 on R861. Do I have a mover? Councillor Brompton.
I move that Council 1 enter into a trustee lease with Mandan Angie Limited over Lease A on SP 294869 in Lot 356 on R861 for a period of 10 years. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to execute the necessary documentation.
Seconder, Councillor Vincent. Would you like to speak, Councillor? Anyone like to speak? Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C5, request for views, renewal of lease over reserve lot 10 on EG 174, reserved for camping purposes. Councillor Surat.
I move that Council advise the Department of Natural Resources and Mines, Manufacturing and Regional and Rural Development that the land is still required for its gazetted purpose. 2, Council has no objection to the renewal of term lease 0/230606 being lot 10 on EG 174. 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign documentation in relation to this decision.
Seconder, Councillor Hancock. Would you like to speak, Councillor?
No, thanks.
Anyone like to speak? Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C6, request for views, renewal of lease over reserve lot 3 on EG 105, reserved for camping, water and road. Do I have a mover? Councillor Vincent.
I move that Council 1 advise the Department of Natural Resources and Mines, Manufacturing and Regional and Rural Development that the land is still required for its gazetted purpose, and 2, Council has no objection to the renewal of term lease 0/230792 being lot 3 on EG 105. 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign documentation in relation to this decision.
I have a seconder, Councillor O'Neill. Anyone, would you like to speak, Councillor?
No, thank you.
Anyone like to speak? We go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C7, request for views, renewal of lease over reserve lot 9 on EG 174, reserved for camping purposes. Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 advise the Department of Natural Resources and Mines, Manufacturing and Regional and Rural Development that the land is still required for its gazetted purpose, and 2, Council has no objection to the renewal of term lease 0/230923 being lot 9 on EG 174. 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign documentation in relation to this decision.
Have a seconder, Councillor Davis. Would you like to speak, Councillor? Anyone like to speak? Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C8, request for views, renewal of lease over reserve lot 30 on SP 145274, reserved for camping purposes. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that Council 1 advise the Department of Natural Resources and Mines, Manufacturing and Regional and Rural Development it offers an objection to the renewal of the term lease 0/231045 over lot 30 on SP 145274. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter direct negotiations between the current leasee and the Council to offer a trustee lease over lot 30 on SP 145274 for a period of 3 years. 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign documentation in relation to this decision.
Have a seconder, Councillor Brumpton. Would you like to speak, Councillor?
No.
Anyone like to speak? Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C9, letter of support, easement on state lease over a reserve lot 221 on WV 1352. Councillor Brumpton.
I move that Council 1 provide a letter of support for the application for easement on state lease over a reserve lot 221 on WV 1352. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign documentation in relation to this decision.
Have a seconder, Councillor Vincent. Would you like to speak, Councillor? Anyone like to speak? Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C10, Biosecurity Advisory Committee, recommendations of appointment. Councillor Seawright.
I move that Council 1 note the completion of the expressions of interest EOI process undertaken in accordance with Resolution OM/02.2025/08. 2, update the terms of reference to include an additional member. 3, appoint the following community representatives to the Biosecurity Advisory Committee for the 2025 to 2027 term. James Stinson, Roma and Surrounds Representative, John Hartley, Mitchell and Surrounds Representative, David Swenison, Surat and Surrounds Representative, Bridget Price, Injune and Surrounds Representative, Graham Canning, Jackson, Wallumbilla and Surrounds Representative, and Cameron Ward, Regional Representative. Right to all applicants and thank them for their interest and advise them of the outcome of the EOI process.
Have a seconder, Councillor Vincent. Would you like to speak, Councillor?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just thank the staff and all the applicants, the staff organising the EOI and for the applicants that come through. We had some really good applications, and unfortunately we can't take them all on board because we would have loved to have. Doesn't mean that people cannot come to our biosecurity meetings anyway. But again, thanks to everyone who applied, and moving forward we can't wait to hold our first actual meeting.
Very good. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Hancock?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to thank all the applicants that put their name forward. For me, it was really heartening to see that council went out for an expression of interest for community to be on a panel, an advisory group, there's people in the community that really wanted to be involved. So that for me was really heartening. Our community does want to have a voice, and I'm just grateful that we've got the opportunity to hear from them, and congratulate the committee members. It just looks like such a great committee that has got representation right across our region.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? I'd just like to also congratulate the portfolio chair and the staff that Jamie's here. Yeah, I think this is another great step forward for our community, and I know a lot of people are really excited to see this come into action. So, thank you everybody that was involved. Would you like to sum them up, Councillor?
No, thanks, Mayor. It's all
let's
been
go to
said.
the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C11. Tender 25037, purchase and removal of stockpile manure Roma sale yards. Councillor Brumpton.
I move that Council 1 award the tender to Roma Earth Moving Proprietary Limited, trading as DMAC Roma, for the purchase and removal of stockpile manure Roma sale yards. 2, delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter into final negotiations with the successful applicant and execute the contract. 3, assign the income to GL 0275.0130, sale yards revenue other.
I have a seconder. Councillor Davis, would you like to speak, Councillor?
Just to say that we received information from the sale yards manager around the chance to actually sell the manure that was stockpiled there. We went out to an EOI, and then following from that went to a tender. So it's nice to see that we can get some value towards the sale yards revenue for this, and it'll get to some good use somewhere else in the district.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else like to speak? Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C12, Tiffin Street North, Roma, Curvin Channel, Western Side, Scope and Budget Review. Do I have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move Council 1 receive and note this report as an update on the status of the approved Tiffin Street North Drainage Project. 2, approve the revised scope of works comprising of 235 metre long concrete drain with bed level concrete driveways on the western side of Tiffin Street North. 3, provide in principle support to carry the project forward into the 2025-2026 Capital Works Program, and to increase the project budget from $135,000 to $246,000 excluding GST, subject to final consideration during the 2025-2026 budget deliberations. And 4, provide an update to the respective resident of Council's decision.
Seconder. Councillor Seawright, would you like to speak,
Is
Councillor?
that residents or resident? Residents,
Respective resident.
Is this the one, or we got a?
There's one who wrote to us, I understand, but there's others that are affected, aren't there?
Yeah, through the chair, there's obviously one resident that's we've been engaging with regularly on this. The rest of the residents would get our typical pre-construction notification when the work happens, but there's obviously one resident in particular that's been advocating for this project for many years. So,
just like to say thanks to staff for
continuing on with this has been historically there for a fair while, and obviously has some issues, and I applaud the staff for working away to make this come to some way of alleviating the pressures of the stormwater to the residents in Tiffin Street.
Anyone else like to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
I just want to move an amendment, if I can, to the point that we were just talking about. I do think it would be appropriate, Councillor Burke, if it was provided update to the neighbouring residents of council's decision.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Who seconded it? Are you happy with that?
Yep.
Anyone else like to speak? Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C13, Funding Opportunity Residential Activation Fund. Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the council, 1, endorse the preparation and submission of an application under round 1 of the Queensland Government's Residential Activation Fund for the delivery of stage 1, A and B of the Police Paddock Residential Subdivision in Roma, with the total estimated construction cost of $10,700,000, including GST. 2, note that the Residential Activation Fund does not require council co-contribution. However, authorise officers to include, as part of the application, a proposal to gift 6 residential lots to the Queensland Government for the purpose of Queensland employee housing, supporting the attraction and retention of essential workers in the region. Authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to finalise the application and submit it to the Department of State Development and Infrastructure prior to the closing date of 23rd of May 2025. 4, include a specific action in Council's draft 25-26 operational plan to support the delivery of the Police Paddock subdivision, specifically leverage council-owned land to increase residential and economic development opportunities, including finalising planning and progressing delivery of the Police Paddock residential subdivision. And 5, be presented with a briefing in early 25-26 outlining other potential council-owned land opportunities in regional towns and localities, with a view to positioning these sites for consideration in future funding rounds under the Residential Action Fund or similar land activation programs.
Seconder. Councillor Brompton, would you like to speak, Councillor?
Yeah, thanks very much, Mayor. This is an amazing project for our region and one that is over a decade in the making. I couldn't be more pleased to see Council consider this today, and I hope fully support our application into this particular grant round. It was my first term on Council where we did the acquisition, land swap, all the things that went with us acquiring the police paddock, knowing that Council was landlocked to the west and our planning scheme had us moving in that direction. We needed to acquire land to future-proof development in our region, and here it is today. There hasn't been much traction in the 2 terms thereafter, and I'm just so pleased that this term of council we are seriously considering and now acting on what was that vision a decade ago to see further development in our town. There has never been, and in our region, there has never been more pressure than what we're currently facing in terms of affordable rental accommodation, and so we need to see an increase in the market, so there's a shift there. If we don't do that, the essential workers that we need to exist in our part of Queensland will make it even more difficult for people to hold down long-term employment, move to the region, deliver their essential services and the roles that they can provide to our community. These are the building blocks for us to fix that, and I couldn't be more excited, as I said, to have the Deputy Premier here only a fortnight ago off the back of the sod turning with the pool, with what is a generational investment there, to then have him on site having a look at this particular project and the generational project that it's going to be for our region, to now have a state government that is willing to properly partner with local government to deliver on these key projects is a really exciting time to be part of local government, and in particular the Maranoa Regional Council. And I want to applaud our team, particularly Cameron Hoffman, for grabbing this project, and our CEO Rob, recognising how important it is to this term of council, how important it is for our region, and doing the grunt work behind the scenes to make sure that we're in a position to be able to be competitive with a number of other projects that are being lodged under the Residential Activation Fund for the state. But I'd like to think we're in a pretty plum position. We've got a good project, the business case is there. In essence, we're shovel ready, and that's because of the work that's been done in the background to get us where we are today. So I strongly support this project. Again, I think it will be a generational shift for our community. I urge all councillors to support it as well.
Thank you. Councillor Burkett.
Yeah, I'd like to speak. I think Councillor Neil's covered most of it all. I just want to also thank the staff, CEO Rob, Deputy CEO Cam. The thing that really stood out to me in that preparation was the time frame you had to knock it over to get the plans to fruition in that week, and what you've come up with was unbelievable. So hats off to get that done, and to have it professionally done for the Deputy Premier was no mean feat. So congratulations on that. Also, I'm a big advocate for all the police paddock, but yeah, one end in particular. I think once we start ticking these boxes, one, it'll give us a bit of revenue, but two, it'll alleviate all the pressures in town, and that'll open up housing for every walk of life. So yeah, take my hat off to you guys, and well said, Councillor O'Neill.
Councillor Brompton.
I'd also like to support it, and yes, Councillor O'Neill doesn't leave many words left that have to be said, but I think it is great for the town, because we know there's housing pressures, that we've looked at the options of having smaller, larger, even larger blocks. This is the first size. These aren't the size of some of the smaller blocks that we've been lumbered with in town, so we've really considered the size of the blocks to make sure that they're not too tiny for the area that we're in. I think we're very lucky that the state government has released this fund for us in this timely way. Not lucky in some respects, because they've released it because there's issues across the state. And the other thing I'd like to acknowledge is we do know there's housing pressures in other communities, and we have, as part of that resolution, picked up that we need to look at other communities and get some ready there, so we can try for any funding that's available. This is round one of this funding round, so potentially there may be an opportunity down the track. I hope we're successful with this one, and then we can just go bigger and better.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Did you have your hand up, Councillor? No, sorry. Councillor Hancock.
Yes, I too fully support this application. Congratulations, CEO and Deputy Director Cam. Thanks for your hard work, and just wanting to acknowledge it has been a many year project and put forward, but this term of council has really been able to listen to the housing issues that we have, and it's just getting more and more, and it's a now or never. We have to be shovel ready so that we can have the best foot forward when these funding applications come to us, and funding opportunities come to us. And I too want to acknowledge that I fully support this economic development project in Roma to support housing, but I too want to assure that our regional towns, that this council is looking for shovel ready projects that have a solution to housing right across our region. So this is just one solution that we're looking at. Looking forward for this to be supported today.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Would you like to sum up, Councillor O'Neill?
Yeah, thanks for. Did you forget?
No, I just couldn't remember who moved it.
Thanks very much, Mayor. The additional comments that were made over and above what I shared before, I echo as well. I think it is important to highlight the fact that in the development of this particular project and the broader subdevelopment, we have considered different size blocks, but we're not selling ourselves out here. The average size will sit around that 900 square metre block. that is a good size residential block for a community that is not hamstrung by overgrowth that you see in larger metropolitan areas. We have the ability in our part of the world to offer appropriate land, and that's what we're doing here. We've seen the challenges that come with recent developments over the last 10 to 15 years where they are very small blocks, and we're addressing that. And I don't feel that was lost on the Deputy Premier when we were speaking with him, and Minister Lay too, I might add, who is also very supportive of this particular project. I think the fact that we are willing to contribute 6 blocks as part of this illustrates the keenness and our desire to truly partner with the state government, and because we recognise that themselves with their workers are facing some challenges in attracting and retaining their skilled workers, whether it be in education or police or health, because of the housing pressures our region is facing. And whilst this project is to help address the immediate, this is about growing our region as well. And we always hear the magic figure in terms of rural communities. If you listen to the demographers, that we've got to get to 20,000. The only way that we can continue to grow is if we provide opportunities, whether that be by industry or by growing industry, but also having the houses to be able to house people when they decide to live in the place that we all call home. And so whilst I'm excited about fixing the immediate issue, this is very exciting for the long term for our region, and I think it's going to be again a real generational change for our main town being Roma, but the broader Maranoa as well. And so I look forward to hearing in a few weeks' time, fingers crossed, everything's crossed, that we're successful.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Thank you, everybody. That's the end of our agenda today. So I'll close the meeting at 2:34, and I'll thank you all for your attendance.